Okay. So thank you, everybody, for coming here. I know that I think there will be some others who will be joining who said they would like to be here. And there are a bunch of people who asked me to send the recording. So hello to those of you who are watching this on recording. Um, I feel free to keep yourself on video, or if you've got to make dinner while you're doing this, feel free to put yourself on video. I don't mind at all if it's just a still of you that I'm looking at or your name or whatever. That's fine with me. And hopefully Susan will come on. It looks like she's trying again. So we'll see. So hi Susan. I don't usually do presentations like this. I did a version of this presentation slightly shorter a month ago for my academic department at Pacifica Graduate Institute. There's a weekly salon that they hold, and I thought I would offer some astrology. And it seemed like it was pretty valuable information. And I think I also feel compelled to want to contribute to the conversation because I've seen a lot of kind of anxious astrology reports out there, and also some stuff that just isn't true, that's AI generated, with an actual likeness of an astrologer who passed away in the fall. And so I feel like it's a good time to have a conversation. I want this to be relatively informal. So I will talk for about 35, 40 minutes, hopefully not too much longer. And then my friend Cheryl Anderson will be offering, what did we call it? A peace and kindness practice.
A loving kindness
A loving
practice. Yeah.
kindness practice. Um, Cheryl and I have taken each other's classes, my astrology classes, and Cheryl's um, a volunteer teacher at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, and I've taken her nonviolent communication classes, so a lot of good information there. And then after Cheryl's done, for anybody who wants to stick around, we can talk more about the astrology or just the general zeitgeist of what's happening at this time. So if everybody would make sure you're muted, I will get started by sharing my screen. All right. And then lead show from current slide. Good? We can see that? Okay. All right. So keep in mind, I think just give a little about me. I've been a professional astrologer for about 8 years, and after a couple of years of doing that, pretty quickly wanted to introduce past life regression, inner child regression, and like cosmic journeying with the astrological chart. It's all, for me, what it's mainly about is helping people, of course, understand who they are, that they have purpose in this life, that they are children of the universe, that the chart supports that, and mainly to help people understand that we are spiritual beings, and that hopefully that will help us all be better human beings. And I'm also right now a PhD candidate through Pacifica, figuring out what my research is going to be about, but it will have something to do with the healing of transgenerational wounding through a combination of astrology and some form of regression therapy. So keep in mind, as we are talking about what we're going to be talking about, that astrology is interpretation. There are general ways we understand the planets and the archetypal qualities that they hold and the astrological signs. But so this is my take. I will be very interested in hearing how what I say strikes you, what else you want to bring into the conversation at the end. So I'll be giving a broad astrological view, then talking about the major transits that involve the outer planets, those that are farthest away from the sun. Then I want to bring in some insight from Eris, Chiron, and Ceres, something that particularly struck me when I was looking at some of the strong transits. These three have a really important role, I feel, and that may be the primary reason I actually wanted to do the presentation a month ago. We'll have the mindfulness meditation and then your questions. So, broad astrological view, the age of Aquarius. These ages are 2100 or so year-long epochs of a particular zeitgeist. The age of Aquarius, when we entered it, any astrologer will have a different view, but somewhere in the last 100 years, some say it's not yet, but we are at this point where we are transitioning from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. And I want to talk about what that means broadly and then how this year is bringing us further into that age. So each age is about 2100 years long. Aquarius in particular is seen as an era of enlightenment, a shift toward a we mentality. It's about collectivism, humanitarianism. It involves understanding high technology and its role in this enlightenment. It has to do with artificial intelligence as well. It's about global connectivity, both technologically and then connectivity on a level of higher awareness. It's about innovation, transparency. It's about a knowledge economy versus a material-based economy, about personal freedom, egalitarianism, and it also brings in rebellion and nonconformity, all of these Aquarius type qualities. We call this the dawning of the age of Aquarius, like we sang about, in the Hair Broadway show, Fifth Dimension, singing about the age of Aquarius. This age follows the age of Pisces. And the difference, the age of Pisces, also about 2,000 years, also known as the age of Jesus, where the age of Pisces was particularly a period, 2,000-year period, where we understand our spirituality primarily through a Messiah, through a priest, through someone else who connects us to the divine. This is a big difference, and one of the things that stands out the most for me with the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius instead has to do with finding the Christ consciousness within each of us. So that term, Christ consciousness, I think began with Ram Dass, but he described it as a universal, formless state of love and pure awareness. It describes the capacity to love everyone unconditionally, to see divine consciousness in everyone. It's to understand one's own intrinsic, eternal divinity rather than to experience it through that connection through a savior figure. So this is really where we are going in this age. And it's not as though we enter this age of Aquarius and then we get to enjoy it for 2,000 years. We're continually evolving and becoming more of what this means as we go through the generations. I want to next turn to Pluto, one of my favorite planets, dwarf planet actually, because Pluto has these qualities that help us move from one age to another and help us within our generation to see this transformation taking place. Pluto is about deep and profound transformation. It has themes of death and rebirth, has to do with going to the underworld, deep understanding, compulsiveness. It has a certain power drive. It has depth and weight. It has a kind of shamanic quality to it. It's about domineering forces as well as repressed urges. It's about collective shadow as well as individual shadow. It can have a destructive power, but it's meant to bring slow and profound change. And Pluto rules the sign of Scorpio. So if you're familiar with the qualities of Scorpio, Pluto is similar. And this change is profound and slow because Pluto's orbit is 250 years. So the impact that it makes is a slow one. It takes decades to really understand what Pluto's transformation is about. And this brings me to our first astrological chart of this presentation. This is the chart of the United States. Its birth chart, July 4th, 1776. And what's significant about this, we've got our 250th anniversary coming up, celebrations around that. In 2022, the United States had what we call our Pluto return. And this is just, you guys can see my cursor, right? You can see me. Okay. So this is Pluto here at 27 degrees Capricorn. In our natal chart, that's where Pluto was positioned. And in February of 2022, Pluto had made its 250 year cycle around the sun and come back to this point. So when a planet has that kind of return to an important point, it begins again another cycle where we understand it in a new way. And it's particularly with Pluto, I mean, with all returns of some kind, this is true, particularly with Pluto, it tells us that which there is something that must die off so that something else can be rebirthed. It's about a death of old behaviors, beliefs, and drives that are no longer useful. So if you think of all that we're going through as a nation right now, this is so heavy. Pluto unveils that which must come forward from the unconscious into our conscious awareness. I am focusing primarily on what's happening in the United States. We are Americans, but also considering that the United States does have this central role as a leader in so many ways. And so what happens with us obviously deeply affects what happens to all of humanity. There was an article in a highly regarded astrological magazine, the Mountain Astrologer, in February of 2022, talking about this Pluto return, and it's still obviously so relevant. He says the United States Pluto return is a period of reset for the nation's power base, unleashing forces of transformation, decay, death, rebirth, and renewal. It's a cosmic karmic turning point, a watershed event with far-reaching ramifications for the country, its people, their leadership, and the very form of government. So we knew this shift was happening. We're living it now. And because this is Pluto, it's not as though because the return happened in 2022, we're done. We're just seeing the results of this. What is it that we're really letting go of? What beliefs and understandings no longer serve us, so that we can enjoy a period of rebirthing and maybe really becoming the nation that we set out to be at the very beginning, a nation where all people are created equal, where democracy really rules. But we have to look at our deep shadow about, the fact that we were not very nice when we started. Creating, just massacring Native people, building our economy on the backs of stolen and enslaved people. That kind of woundedness needs to be fully in our attention if we are to rebirth ourselves. So Pluto first moved from Capricorn, where it was in our birth chart, into Aquarius in 2023. It's going to remain in Aquarius until 2043 to 2044. So in this way, Pluto provides a preview and an intensifier of the larger themes of the age of Aquarius. And it's about a tearing down in order to rebuild. And in Aquarius, particularly, there's a focus on how we use technology, what social justice really means, and it's about understanding what collective power really is. I want to also bring in something outside of astrology. This is one of my favorite books. sacred instructions. Sherry Mitchell is a Maine Indigenous um, woman. She has her degree in law, and she has been, for the last several decades, speaking and teaching on issues of Indigenous rights, environmental justice, and spiritual change. I love her. And she talks in this book about the United States shadow, essentially. She doesn't bring in astrology, but she's talking about the same thing. And what the purpose of these times are. At the end, she mentions a number of different indigenous prophecies: Lakota, Cree, Hopi, Wabanaki, Mohawk, all these essentially talking about this time. And there's not a particular set of years. Like, we don't know when we're going to be done. And we also don't know the outcome. It's about this crossroads where we are. She says the United States was born in violence, and it has carried an imprint of that violence with it as it has grown. In order to transform this violent path, we have to go back to the seed that gave birth to this country and heal that imprint. And that's really a lot of what we're doing. And there's so much in the theme of 2026 around this, going back to the seed, recognizing our violent path and doing it differently. About these prophecies, she says, all of these prophecies speak of a time of awakening when the people of the earth would rise up and take the sacred teachings held in the indigenous way of life and work together to restore the health and well-being of Mother Earth. They tell us that we will face great challenges during this time, but we will succeed if we choose to walk the path that has been held for us by our ancestors. Our role is not simply to observe the emergence of these prophecies, but to actively participate in their unfolding. As we move through these challenging times, we can draw strength from knowing that we are tied to the entire lineage of life. And it's that active participation that I think is so important, especially, in response to some of these astrological forecasts that I've come across that make it sound like this cosmic shift is going to happen to us. And if we happen to be in the right mood on the right day, we're good. And if not, better luck next life. It's just not like that. It's about how we approach each day, how we are each actively participating in this, our active participation with the cosmos when it comes to the astrology. So I'm going to talk about next left to right here, and certainly not their size. They're not all the same size. Pluto is this tiny little thing compared to the next one. So left to right, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, and of course Saturn. I love these photographs. These are actual images of how beautiful and amazing these celestial gods are. Neptune. Archetypally, Neptune is about a yearning for perfection and bliss. It's about the spiritual dimension of life. It involves savior and prophet archetypes, martyr and victim archetypes. It speaks to something that is much larger than yourself. It's our channel to higher source. It's our channel to inspiration and intuition and creative imagination. It has an ethereal quality. It can cause disillusionment and confusion. It makes us want to be dreamy. It makes us want to escape from reality. And Neptune rules Pisces. Pisces carries a lot of these qualities. Neptune was in the sign of Pisces from April 2011 just to January 26th of this year. So it's a shift now as Neptune moves into Aries. That whole period, 2011 to 2016, is when the cloud emerged. It's a very Neptunian concept, the metaverse. Also, all of this disinformation that we struggle with, The alternative facts, those are very Neptunian and certainly Neptune in Pisces. The savior ideation of one particular political leader. But it also brings an increased awareness of our spirituality outside of organized religion, just my channel to higher source that exists regardless of any framework that I want to put it into. And now I want to bring in Neptune and Saturn because together they are doing something pretty impressive in 2026. So our next chart, we are looking here. This is Neptune, the trident, and this is the sign for Saturn. This is one of the things I think that most astrologers are talking about because it's pretty significant. It's not unusual in their travels for two transiting planets to be at the same area in the sky, which we mark by the degree of a certain sign that they're in. But for these two to come together in the new sign of Aries at 0 degrees is really extraordinary. 0 degrees marks entry into new energy. And in Aries, Aries is considered in Western astrology to be the first of the 12 astrological signs. It's like the beginning of a new cycle. So this really is a marker astrologically of a reset of energy. And I'll talk a bit about what it means in the sign of Aries. Aries is our god of war and can be our god of violent war, can be our god of nonviolent conflict. It has a certain survival instinct. It can be fiery and bold. It can be assertive. It can be aggressive. It can be very competitive. It also has an independent quality. It has a lot to do with the individual. It has to do with courage. Aries can be impatient. Aries can be impulsive. What's important, I think, when we think about this reset with Neptune and Saturn together in Aries is that it's about new initiative and trailblazing. So let's talk more about what happens when these two, I just have to move my view of you somewhere else. What happens when these two gods, these two energies come together? What's the new dynamic that they create? Saturn specifically brings qualities that provide boundaries, limitation, a sense of responsibility, a sense of maturity, reality, owning one's authority, which also includes holding oneself accountable. It can bring a sense of shame. It can bring a sense of guilt. So it's a very different energy than this ethereal, idealistic, dreamy Neptune. But together, there's an interesting dynamic because Saturn can check the disillusionment that Neptune brings. So part of that is just, I mean, I think I already see this, you probably do too, where collectively we're checking ourselves, we're not responding ideally, we're not responding to everything that immediately comes into our attention. We've been through this enough that we know that almost anything we look at, read, see, hear might not be true. So we have to check that. Saturn will help us do that. Saturn likes reality. Saturn wants us to be responsible. Together in Aries, Saturn and Neptune create a reality check that can lead both to a world weariness because it's a very difficult dynamic, but it also leads us to want to take action. Saturn is about growth and maturity, taking responsibility, owning authority. There is suffering as well as soul making with these two. And they stay together, not necessarily at the very same degree, but they stay together for the most part in 2026. So this is a dynamic that I want to say we will enjoy because it will bring change. It will give us that reality check around the lies and the alternative facts, all these things that are just have been so frustrating. Uranus, I'm going to just close that out altogether. Okay, Uranus is the planet that we refer to as the Great Awakener. Different from the profound shift that Pluto brings, which is very slow and powerful, Uranus creates sudden shift, sudden change. It's about revolution, innovation, individuation, breaking free from conventions, freedom from status quo. It's a catalyst for future forward transformation, eccentricity. I put freak flag in there because there was a strong Uranus and Pluto conjunction in the 1960s. I mean, that was, astrologically, that was what was happening when we were hippies and we're letting our freak flag fly. Saturn or Uranus rules the sign of Aquarius. So as a planet itself, it embodies these qualities of the age of Aquarius. These planets are always doing something that has an impact on us. But it's when the aspects with other planets, the relationship with other planets are particularly strong that we take note in any individual year. And what Uranus is doing, so this here, this opposition, this is South Node, this is North Node. This is like the path that our collective soul, when we're talking about it as a world dynamic, it's the direction in which we're moving. And what's interesting, so this is the chart from June 12th of this year. Uranus, this god of sudden and profound shift, rebellion, is at 2 degrees in an exact square with these nodes. And so this nodal axis reveals where past assumptions or outdated narratives interfere with the full emergence of our intended path. But when Uranus forms a square to the moon's nodes or the lunar nodes, it signals a powerful opportunity for awakening. It challenges inherited patterns and habitual conditioning. And I like the word opportunity because if we want to put our heads in the sand, we will miss this opportunity. If we choose to engage and be aware of what's happening and to actively be in that future forward energy, that's a different story. I'm going to bring in these smaller things, these celestial bodies. These are the 3 that really have caught my attention. And often astrological forecasts or discussions will have more to do with the major planets. They're the ones that we know. These just sung out to me. So on the left here is our dwarf planet Eris. In the center is Chiron, which is essentially a cometoid. It's half asteroid, half comet. I am obsessed with Chiron. It's the archetype of the wounded healer. This will have a central role in my research. I just think it's funny that it's the wounded healer, and it's just this ugly, like space potato, but it's adorable. And on the right is the dwarf planet Ceres. Ceres has its orbit in the asteroid belt, which is between Mars and Jupiter. So she's also qualifies as an asteroid. Doesn't really matter. It's really like, what are they about? And what are they doing this year? So here's this chart from February 27th. I noticed this because my birthday is just a couple days later, and I was looking at my solar return chart, and I was like, whoa, this is pretty interesting, really interesting stuff. So, in a couple of weeks, here's Saturn and Neptune again. They've moved ahead, they've advanced to 1 degree Aries. But here's Chiron, Ceres, and Eris, all at the same degree in Aries. This is powerful stuff. Um, at the same time, Mercury and Venus are conjunct in at 22 degrees Pisces. And also Uranus, our god of sudden shift, is in a very strong exact square with Mars, which is the archetype of Aries, this like warrior energy. I don't know, I can't tell you what's going to happen, but it's a time to pay attention. And it may not be that there's one event, but I think as we look back on what shifts right around this time period, there will be no denying that this was a time of some level of awakening. I'm going to get to this. I think that the slide is coming. I don't think it's next, but this also is something that made me just say, whoa, because um, this is Black Moon Lilith. Her mythological story is that she was Adam's first wife before Eve, and there are different versions of her story, but essentially, she and Adam don't do well. She's a very strong person. She can be disagreeable. She's strong. Either the story goes that she's rejected and she rewilds herself in nature, or she chooses to free herself and rewilds herself in nature. She represents our purest, most authentic feminine. She can be a badass. She represents misogyny. She represents fury. Where she shows up in a person's chart is where that person will experience some level of marginalization or rejection. We all have her somewhere in our chart, and I'll get to that, like where she's transiting. Trump's chart is pretty stunning. So, also at this time, it's the year of the fire horse in Chinese astrology. And I just think that's so, I just love it because we're talking about this fiery energy of Aries. And this year of the fire horse occurs every 60 years. The last time was 1966 when we were back in that kind of strong revolutionary focus on social justice, wild changes, all of the horrible riots, but what came out of that period, we are in a similar time. This fire horse combines the horse's freedom and vitality, which are very Aquarian qualities, with fire, Aries, passion and intensity, creating a potent mix for innovation, ambition, and quick progress. So it's bound to be a powerful, transformative year associated with cultural shifts, major changes. I want to focus on the meanings of Eris, Chiron, and Ceres. Really, with there being smaller celestial bodies, it's almost like they work in the background, affecting what the major planets are doing, like kind of giving it a different flavor. And it's a very, very strong energy. So Eris, as a dwarf planet, is our Greek goddess of strife, chaos, and discord. She has a feminine warrior energy. She is a disruptive force. She's a warrior for the disenfranchised. She holds hidden resentments. She brings hidden injustices to light. Just think Epstein. She's a catalyst for often painful transformation. She's radical. She's got radical individuality. She challenges existing structures. She's about profound self-discovery. Chiron is the wounded healer energy. It's about core wounds, whether they are physical or emotional, collective wounds as well as individual, ancestral wounding. It speaks to our deepest vulnerabilities, about playing the roles that each of us plays as the wounded, the healer, and the wounder. Chiron bridges earthly struggle and spiritual enlightenment. It manifests later. If we've done our work individually, it manifests later as deep empathy. Chiron is mentor, teacher. It's about this spiritual, psychospiritual liberation through suffering. We don't become the wounded healer if we're not attending to our own wounds. And Ceres, also the Greek Demeter, if you know the story of Demeter and Persephone. Ceres is our goddess of agriculture, wheat, nurturance, fertility, nourishment, both emotional and physical, about parenting and mothering, loss and grief, recovery, negotiating with the underworld, going into that deep shadow space and negotiating what's there. What do we find? What do we need to let go of? That's kind of cycle of life, harvesting or rebuilding. It's about self-care, and it's about addressing unmet needs. So these three are in alignment in a very profound way, the same time that Neptune and Saturn are in alignment. And I wanted to look at, so what does it mean? And, these three together, if we look at them individually, Eris and Chiron is about internal woundedness that initiates discord, public and then within oneself. The disenfranchised become catalysts for change and healing. These are just my ideas for what they are. I wanted to, when I was talking about Eris, I wanted to also mention, because she has to do with rage, and she is in the sign of Aries, which has to do with fire. This came into my mind as I was preparing this presentation a month ago, of when I was full of rage the day after the presidential election, full of rage, full of despair. And a friend of mine sent me an essay that the author Megan Watterson wrote sometime before the presidential election, but it's titled Rage is My Beloved. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's really about not trying to dismiss our rage as something bad. I shouldn't be angry. I should be calm and loving. But how do I work with rage? And this one line where she says, rage only clarifies who I care about most, who I feel connected to, who I will stand shoulder to shoulder with for this injustice I will not let another face alone. And there's another line in here. I want to find it. I will bring it up later, but it's this, I believe this Eris Chiron series trio has a lot to do with working with our rage in a way that is actually nurturing. Chiron series together as a duo. Self-nurturance is what comes up for me when I consider these two. Empathy for the struggling that we see in others. Understanding our collective woundedness and grieving together. And this grieving too, I think part of what we are grieving is this myth that I certainly grew up with, probably you all did too, that the United States is fabulous. I think all of our Constitution, all of the principles that we are founded on are fabulous, but we have never lived up to them. And that's the sort of grieving that I think we have to pay attention to. It's sad. I loved believing that our country was amazing, and a leader in all these peaceful and wonderful ways. And I believe we are that. But to come back to that notion of getting to the seed of our woundedness, this is a lot of what we're doing. Eris and Ceres together, rage and discord and nurturance. individual initiative on behalf of another, empowerment and renewal of individual rights. What's next? So altogether, I see this as a reclaiming of the divine feminine, an integration of this energy into ourselves, and then putting that out into the collective. So to Trump's chart, when I was looking at the dynamic of the February 27th, and I said, oh my gosh, I noticed, well, things I want to point out with his chart first. His, it almost like creeps me out to look at his chart. You know, it's like I don't want to get that close to him. But South Node has and Moon conjunct in Saturn in the fourth house. This is like someone who has an exaggerated sense of self, came into this world with an exaggerated sense of self-importance. It's one of the ways we can look at this. Another critical point in his chart is this, and you may, if you've looked at his chart, you may have looked at it in a different house system. I think this is the one people typically use for him, is Placidus. His Leo here, we all have Leo somewhere. It can be expressive, it can be confident, it can be fun. When it's at 29 degrees, 29 degrees is like a critical point where a sign is expressed in its highest, and often at 29 degrees, it becomes problematic because it's so intense, it kind of implodes. So think of it has to do with ego. And it's also conjunct his Mars. So it's like this implosion of ego. He can't, this is the point where we can say he has, megalomania. He suffers from malignant narcissism. It's in his chart. These things are trying, this over exaggerated sense of self and this egomania. When I look at these transits, so here at the center is his chart. Here's his megalomania. Here's his exaggerated sense of self. And here's these three partners. Fascinating to me that also here at 20 degrees Sagittarius, at the same degree, so on this day, February 27th, when we have these amazing conjunctions, Lilith, our female badass, is conjunct Trump's exaggerated sense of self. Something has to be happening then. I'm hoping this means that this is when the Epstein files conclusively show, without anyone ever being able to create some ridiculous lie about it, that Trump was deeply involved. I don't, who knows? But this time period, just pay attention. End of February. I don't know if it'll be this day. Oh, this is June 14th. Sorry. What am I doing? No. Cancel that. February 27th, 2026, June 14th is his birthday. So at the end of February, just note that there's going to be a profound shift. It's going to involve Trump. These three key figures in the healing of woundedness and nurturance and discord are in alignment. And there's this grand trine between all of these. This is a very significant time. There's more I can say about this, but I won't. Just pay attention. I guess other thing I want to point out is that at that time, Uranus is in Taurus. It's our, the disruptor, and it's on Trump's midheaven, which is his life's work. Something is going to implode then, I believe. So this I wasn't even going to bring in, but after her, shall we say, her performance, testifying, I had to look at her chart. I had not looked at it, and you can't make this stuff up. So she has Ceres and Chiron here both at 18 degrees, so strong conjunction. We can look at this alone because Pisces has to do with compassion. When Chiron shows up in a person's natal chart, it's where they will struggle with a particular thing. We know she's struggling with compassion. Um, but opposite that, in this exact opposition, also 18 degrees, is the signature of her generation. She's born in 1965. This is that profound transformation of the 1960s, very exact at the time that she was born. And in this just stunning opposition, so where I want to, as I'm reading the news, be thinking, my God, why are these people in charge? I have to ask myself if, I believe this is part of the divine intent, that we cannot look at our shadow unless it's right there in front of our faces. And that these people, perhaps, in their choosing of their lives and their life experience, may have volunteered for these roles to be hated, but to be agents of change in a way that makes us all very uncomfortable. 18 degrees is also, especially when like if you have one or two planets that are 18 degrees, but they're not in relationship with each other, it doesn't mean anything. But when it's so strong and profound, it does have meaning. And I just Googled it to see, how much am I reading into this versus what's the common understanding of this. I hope I saved it. Maybe I didn't. Anyway, it is often seen as a marker of malefic ill intent. Some would say evil. But what's important, I think, is that it's also an opportunity. If this kind of 18-degree aspect shows up in someone's chart, it is opportunity for profound transformation. And I wonder what this year will bring for her, because aside from having this strong marker, Uranus are when Uranus is at that point where it's in the square with the nodes in the summertime, is going to be right around here at her north node, which is in this T square to this just powerful opposition that she has. I think she has a very profound role to play. I hope what it means is that she takes this opportunity. So much of her chart has to do, like the themes of her chart have to do with moving from a place of like blind loyalty, blind philosophical belief, into a place where you are examining information, you're examining data, and you come into your own truths. I'm hoping it means that she has a shift and she will be a key player in exposing the truth of the administration versus what she's been doing. Let's hope, right? So coming back to this, all of this intense stuff and the indigenous prophecy, I like this way that Sherry Mitchell describes this particular Cree prophecy that tells of a time when those who have kept the ways of the earth would teach the newcomers how to realign their lives with the earth in order to protect mankind from destruction. Those who came to learn from the people of the earth would then share those teachings with others all over the world, and the earth would be restored to its natural state of health and beauty. I believe this is where we're going. If we align ourselves properly, this is where we're going over the long haul, in this Pluto rebirth that we're seeing in our country, and then as we enter into what we understand as the greater awakening of the age of Aquarius. This prophecy also used the term rainbow warriors to indicate the people from every race and every direction. These prophecies have been coming to life for years, and they will continue to unfold in the years to come as more and more people awaken and join our stand to protect life on Earth. So not only protecting the natural life, which of course we must do because that is our mother and our nurturer, but also protecting lives of human beings. And then I thought it'd end with these guys. I mean, just, rainbow warriors. And this is another quote from Megan Watterson. It's that when we take action based in the rage that builds in us, when we then go to take action, we must first intentionally return to love. And that's what I got. So, Cheryl, let me unshare.
I undid that.
Okay. So, Cheryl is going to take it now and help us form a practice.
There you go.
You may already know this practice, but it's a
Yeah.
nice transition from that presentation, and then we'll have some discussion afterward.
Well, I this in this time of transition, when we're sort of called to help the transition, I thought the Buddhist metta practice, which is a practice that helps us cultivate loving kindness toward all beings, basically, is a really powerful practice. And so I wanted to just lead us in this practice. And I'll do a very shortened version of it today, but it's something that's real easy to do on your own. In fact, my afternoon meditation lately has often been the metta practice, because I just needed to cultivate some loving kindness toward the people that I'm, enraged with. And so in this practice, there are four basic sort of prayers. The way they're done in the basic four in Buddhist tradition is, may I be safe. Oftentimes it'll be, may I be safe from harm, may I be, and I've learned that you don't, if you're going to ask for something, you don't put a negative in there, because the subconscious doesn't hear the negative, and God doesn't hear the negative. So it's, you traditionally you begin with yourself. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Now, you can add all kinds of other things. Like when I do this practice, I begin, first of all, traditionally you begin with yourself. But Westerners have much more trouble wishing these things for themselves than for their loved ones, because it feels selfish or something. And so what I have learned, what I've found works for me, is I begin by getting a sense of, or remembering perhaps times when I have felt safe, when I have felt secure, and I remember them with a sense of gratitude. Like, thank you for the safety I've enjoyed in my life, and thank you for the happiness I've enjoyed in my life, and thank you for the health I enjoy, and thank you for the sense of ease that I have enjoyed my whole life. I mean, now obviously, if you're going through a hard time, you might be asking, may I be healthy? It's like whatever. And I add some other words, and I'll add some of them as we go along, because there's some other ones that I like. Okay, so you begin with someone, after you sort of get a sense of your own. Well, let's do that. Let's just take a minute to just maybe close your eyes or lower your gaze and bring to mind times when you have felt safe, when you have felt secure, because then you'll have that feeling, come to that feeling again, because then you can wish that feeling for other people. And you might, with a sense of gratitude, bring up those memories of feeling safe. And then, with a sense of gratitude, bring up memories of happy times, times when you were delighted by something, times when you had fun. And with gratitude, just feel that within you. And then bring up into your mind times when you have felt, when you felt vital and healthy. Um, Energetic. What did that feel like? Bring up those feelings with a sense of gratitude. And then finally bring up times when you've just been at ease, when you've felt satisfied, when you felt peaceful. And it might be right now, who knows? But remember, bring to mind that sense of ease and peace and satisfaction with gratitude. And now bring to mind someone you love with no mixed emotions. It oftentimes a grandchild is the best, or a dog. It could be a pet. It needs to be a being, a person or a being that there's not, sort of like, yeah, well, there's a mixed emotion there. And bring that person to mind right in front of you and offer them the same wishes. May you be safe. May you feel secure. May you be happy. May you have fun. Have delights. May you be healthy and strong and vital. May you live with ease and peace and satisfaction. And one that I like to add that I learned from Tara Brach is, may you be filled with loving kindness, held in loving kindness, and know loving kindness as your true nature. Now, normally when I do this practice, I do several people that I love, several people who are special to me. But then you move on as you've built up more of this sense of loving kindness. You move on to someone who is neutral in your life. It could be the person at the post office. It could be a person that you see at the cash register in the supermarket on a regular basis. Could be somebody that you see walking down the street with their dog frequently. And bring that person to mind and wish them the same things. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and peace and satisfaction. May you be filled with loving kindness and held in loving kindness. And may you know loving kindness as your true nature. And then you might do some other sort of neutral people, but then you get into somebody who's more difficult. And it doesn't need to be somebody who's very difficult, just someone, I mean, oftentimes it's your spouse. Because there's mixed emotions. Could be a child, that you have a cousin. It could be whatever. It could be a politician that you disagree with, or a family member that you disagree with. But someone it's a little bit more difficult. But by now you will have built up more loving kindness within you, and so you can offer that person loving kindness. May you be safe, may you be healthy, may you be happy, may you live with ease and peace and satisfaction, and may you be filled with loving kindness, held in loving kindness, and may you come to know loving kindness as your true nature. Now, I've been practicing this enough that I'm able to do it for Trump, but don't try it. And then get more global. Then we go global. May all beings be safe. May all humans and all beings be safe and feel secure. May all humans all over the world and all beings be happy, content, have fun. May all beings be healthy and, and strong and vital. May all beings live with ease and peace and satisfaction. And may all beings be filled with loving kindness, be held in loving kindness. May all beings know loving kindness as their true nature and our connection as beings. That was a running a zooming through the loving kindness practice. And it really helps when you get to the difficult people, if you've done a whole lot of the people that are easy to do, because that sense of inner love and kindness, builds as you do this. And the other thing is, when you get to difficult people, I always have realized that if someone feels safe, is truly happy, is healthy in body, mind, and spirit, and feels ease and peace and satisfaction in life, they are not going to harm other people. And so it makes it much easier for me to offer metta for ice, you know? And basically, if we want a world of loving kindness, we have to be loving kindness in the world. If we get co-opted by the fear and the hatred, then we're just adding to the fear and hatred.
It's perfect. Thank you. I feel good
Good.
just having, put myself in that safe space and then projecting onto the few who I worked with. Thank you, Cheryl. So, anybody who wants to stick around for conversation for the next 20, 30 minutes, please feel free. I'd love to hear from you. Anything that you want to share, reactions to um, what I presented, things you want to add. Um, and I think, I don't know if do we want to, Jeff, do we want to do the hand raising thing or do we just chime in? Mary Lynn, you go right ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a small enough group to
Yeah,
chime in.
great.
I would just like to say thank you, first of all, so much, Peggy, for that really lovely presentation. And I am so grateful to follow on the heels of the meditation, Cheryl. Thank you, Cheryl. Um, I am grateful for the roadmap of astrology, um, and the way that you presented it today, because it continues to provide me with hope.
Mhm.
And in the midst of all this chaos, I do believe that things will get better, can get better, and we're on the precipice of this tremendous change. I just really wish things weren't so awful. Um, my safe space is my little home here in Portland, and I got rageful when ICE showed up. And, I'm a white woman. I'm not going to get stopped in my car, although who knows? So my heart has gone out to our immigrant population, even to those that aren't immigrants that just do not have the or doesn't do have the color that evokes ICE's attention. Um, and just that feeling of not feeling safe.
Mhm.
Um, where I live, and watching that video. I think that went nationwide, and it was right over there by Whole Foods. That one person that was some sort of law enforcement person had been just abducted and taken out of his car, and just to remark and think about all the people driving by that maybe had just gone to Whole Foods for dinner,
Mm.
take home to their family, and they're watching this outrage unfold in front of them. And they can't do anything about it. You have to watch that. And so I don't know, again, to get highlight that, but then to get back to I am hopeful and I do appreciate the map of astrology leading me forward through these times.
Thank you. It does make it easier. Maybe not easy, or makes it less hard to
Yeah,
know
well,
that
it's
there
just,
does
yeah,
appear to be great purpose in all of
right.
this.
There's hope.
Yeah, right,
In spite of the chaos, we've got
right.
some things to look forward to. And I do love the asteroids. I just love the way they show up and they
Yeah,
sneak in with their stories.
yes, exactly.
So,
Thanks,
Peggy,
Mary.
the chart, the chart of the United States.
Hmm.
So the 250-year cycle was started 2 years ago.
It the 250-year cycle of Pluto's orbit
Right,
came to that same point 4 years ago, and so
4 years
beginning
ago.
a new cycle. So we're at this
Right.
transformational time.
And so is there a shadow aspect to any of that go? Yes, it's
Most definitely,
coming
yeah,
coming to coming to grips with our dark past. And you and I have discussed this. I just, I have felt this for a really long time because
yeah.
I write about what we've done to Indigenous people, and I've just always felt it for so long that this country is we've just lied to ourselves. We've lived in this illusion of how great we are and how wonderful. And it's just it's just had to die. Those lies had to die.
Mhm.
Right.
And it really is a grieving to have
Mhm.
to let go of that illusion. And then how do we work with the reality, but still hold the ideals?
Right.
And the that Pluto transformation where it's in the sign of Capricorn. Now Pluto has moved on to Aquarius, but it's Capricorn is about structure and government and rules, infrastructure. So it's like, how do we rebuild our government essentially in a way that, you know, acknowledges what needs healing and builds the next phase that has a reality check attached to it. So, anybody else?
I wanted to share that in a synchronicitous experience, right before I signed on, I was working on my shower drain. And I thought I was going to be doing this last night, but I got sidetracked. And so I had all the things I needed to totally undo everything connected to my shower drain system. And it wasn't draining properly. And I, tried all the standard tricks to avoid a deeper surgery and realized I just need to go all the way into that drain and figure out what is obstructing the flow of the waters. And so I opened up the air vent area. It's a bathtub, so you've got all the different things and clickers and pulleys, and then unscrew the drain. And it's kind of a funny drain system. It goes down a little bit and then it goes far back and then it goes down again. Very tricky to get whatever's inside of it, but I got one of those kind of weaselly snakes,
Mm-hmm.
plastic snakes, and figured out the labyrinth to get it all the way in. And then it took about 8 times, but then about maybe somewhere between 24 and 30 inches of this extremely long brown black snake of human hair came out, and extremely satisfying. I can't describe the feeling of satisfaction of realizing that that was in there, and then sort of sat it down on the inside of the tub, realizing that it was a big snake that was blocking the drain, and then put some baking soda and vinegar down to sort of rinse it through, and it's working amazingly. This was literally about 2 minutes before I signed on. And so I think I'm saying this to say that as the wood snake comes to a close, um, if you do have drains to
It's
work
talking
on,
about the Chinese astrology,
oh yeah,
Yeah.
our current year,
right, that year. Yeah.
drain work is a really good way to access that shedding of the wood snake, especially if it's hair, because wood is all about the growth on the soil of the earth. And this is basically the human version of wood is our hair. Um, so yeah, do the dirty thing, get it out all the way, cleanse it, and then the horse movement can
Mhm.
happen. We have to free the waters. There's no way to do this that isn't freeing the waters. So I wanted to share that there's no quick fix. You got to do the deep surgery and you
Yeah.
got to get the snake out.
And I love too that you're talking about helping the waters flow, which, astrology, we're talking about the emotions, the empathy, the compassion. Um, so that's a great metaphor.
I don't know when the last time this happened was. We certainly haven't done it in the 8 years we've been in the house. So it could be 10, 20 years of
I'm sure
accumulating.
we've all been there where it's like
Mhm.
it's horrifying in the one
Yeah.
on the one sense, but as you say, it's like when you're dredging and then you pull it out and you can look at it what's left is the flow.
So I think
Peggy,
that,
I'll have to go. I just want to
Okay.
say thank you so much.
Thank you,
It
Kay,
was
for
so
coming.
instructive and helpful.
Thank you for
Really.
being here.
Okay,
Appreciate your
thank you.
energy.
Bye.
Bye.
so it's my prayer with Eris series and Chiron is that this is what we're doing collectively with the Epstein files and with Pam Bondi's trial and all of this is, we're actually clearing the drain here that's been stopped up for a while, and then the waters will flow after it. That's my prayer.
Right. And
I
this
get-
scary, scary muck that needs to be pulled. Long, long history of it. Yeah. It is true.
Hey, Peggy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was great. And I wonder for those with a little more knowledge and experience, if they might be able to explain the whiplash that is felt with you've heard it read. I'm very pro woman. I've been to multiple protests. And you're like, take them down. And then you're like, hold on. And you have to continually try to remind yourself to rise above the chaos, to not get sucked down in it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's normal, right? That what's for dinner? And oh my word, the US is like we're on the verge of collapse. And you want and we need to, and I recognize that. But how do you maybe you just stay in your safe space in your little room in your house. I don't know, but it's whiplash, and I want to have that suffragette mentality that frees all the people disenfranchised and still stay safe. And I think the hard thing is like I mean, proud to be an American, and then realizing like, but are we? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I don't know how to. I just write nonstop now about it. Any tips from
anybody else can comment too. I mean, I feel like acknowledging all those things, they're all true. And I mean, I can go down the road of being furious and not checking myself. And I hate that because inevitably, if I don't tend to do much with that. I think I have learned to catch myself before I rage on social media. But when you think of all of the people in Minneapolis who, for the most part, responded to all of that with their whistles and their song and their happy, inflatable costumes or whatever. It seems like it helps to be with other people, right? To maintain the right frame of mind, to not become angry, hysterical people who then lose some amount of credibility and can do harm. So I don't know what tip I have other than like astrologically. That's why I think I liked that Ceres was a part of that trio because I mean, no astrological planets are all good. They've all got their highest expression and their lower, but Ceres has that nurturance quality and the ability to go deep into the underworld and be part of this cycle that also includes fertility. So I
want to say something.
say something.
because well, as Mr. Rogers said, when there would be something awful going on, his mother would always say, look for the ones who are helping. Because there are people walking immigrant children to school to keep them safe, and people who are taking food to the people who are holding up in their houses because and And I also say subscribe to positive news sources because there's a whole lot of really hopeful stuff going on all over the world. In other words, it's like it's not the all of the noise is actually a very small portion of what's going on in the world. And I mean, just the growing crowds as the monks walked to Washington, it's really clear that there's a lot of loving kindness out there,
Yeah.
that we're not seeing because the media only shows us that crap, particularly social media. So I say, get off social media, stop watching the news because believe me, you'll hear it anyway. Um, but then also, I subscribe to several positive news sources that show good things that are going on in the world.
Yeah, that's good advice. And I do like the meta. I learned years ago when I was in church, one of the things that we were taught was, you know, similar to what you just did, was wish whatever you want for yourself and your
Yes.
family, wish it upon those the hardest to deal with. I mean, I've got Trump supporting family members
Yeah.
right in my neighborhood, and I think I might start there.
Yeah.
Maybe that the wool will be lifted. I don't know. But I'll let the universe take that up. I really appreciated that meta. I could feel that in me when you were doing that, and it will become a daily practice for me.
That's great.
So thank you. I appreciate that.
And keep in mind that when you're offering meta to someone, you're not offering it in order to change them, because then it's not
Darn
meta.
it. However the universe or the high source wants to impart my well wishes to them is how it will happen. So I get no control. I don't know about this plan.
No, just keep in
No,
mind, what I said, that if a person is truly safe, happy, healthy, and at ease, they will not do harmful things
and
to
that's the
other
big one
people.
right there. I might post that out onto social media.
Right.
I'm going to go, Peggy, as always. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much
Cheryl,
for being
thank
here,
you.
Krista.
And thank you, the drain analogy. That's
Yeah,
all
that's a
true
great
stuff.
analogy.
And we're free to send this recording on to others who will benefit
Sure.
from it.
Yeah, I'll send it to everybody who attended. Actually, I need to make sure. Take a little, I don't know if anybody wrote down the names, but I'm going to take a little
You have it in the recording, yeah.
Right, I'll have it in the recording. Yeah, I'll send it to everybody who attended. I've got a bunch of people who knew they wouldn't be able to attend, and I'll probably send it out to my email list anyway, just so they've got it. Because there's good stuff here.
There is. Thank you so much. I will chat with you again in a couple months at least.
Okay, all right.
So thank you. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Bye, Krista.
Bye.
Mary Lynn, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to reference again where I am in Portland here and how that community effort is so crucial around us coming together as a community to support our immigrant population. And it has really been wonderful to see that transpire here with, like Maine Needs. It's an organization that collects different things for the immigrant population. And every week they're on Facebook asking for other things. People are, as I believe Cheryl had suggested or mentioned, that I have one friend who has adopted an immigrant woman from Africa and her little boy. And in their apartment building, it's the neighbors all come out to put the little boy on the bus and help him get off the bus because mom needs to stay shrouded inside the house. So that level of fear, when I think about it, again, that can make me rageful, that's been precipitated solely by this entity called ice. And yet, all of this caring and this community effort that I see around me, um, it's been really awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's the age of Aquarius,
Hmm.
those community-wide efforts, each of us doing something individually to contribute to the greater whole of the community.
100%. It's good. I do feel there's way more goodness out there than is represented. Way more goodness than what's represented. Susan, you've made yourself visible. It's nice to see you.
Have been doing dishes while I listened, so didn't think you needed to watch me do that, but I really have enjoyed this. So
Good.
yeah, they're all done.
Good. Anybody else? Kristen, were you here? You don't have to show your face if you don't want to. Were you here the whole time? I saw that you came on. I didn't know if you just came on at 5 or if you had been on and you went off and you came back.
I had a connectivity issue, so I
Um,
popped in very late, but I'm enjoying hearing everyone's comments and it's very hopeful and heartful. I just I go through waves of grief and depression and then I jump in on something like this, and so thank you all for your
mm,
positive thoughts. I think we just take little steps to help each other, so I appreciate that.
for sure. For sure. Sibella?
One question for you, astrologically, Peggy. You had a slide for Pluto in Aquarius, and you said the end date was around 2043 to 2044.
Mm-hmm.
After Aquarius is Pisces. So do you know, can you give us any long-term forecasts? Like what is coming? What does Pluto in Pisces do?
Right.
Because that sounds kind of romantic to me.
Right. I mean, you've got the dreaminess of Pisces, and Pisces can, check out and escape reality. So maybe part of that, with Pluto being this long-term force that forces us to look at shadow so that we can let go of what's no longer useful and rebuild, rebirth. If part of what that is saying is, let's assume there's still disinformation out there, that Pluto might help us really look even more closely at our systems and what needs to be fixed. Part of it could be that, I mean, Pisces also represents deep compassion for others. So if there are blockages to that, or, I'm just thinking of Elon Musk saying that people who are too empathic are weak, so maybe some of it has to do with this understanding of, well, what is compassion? Does that make me weak or does that make me more whole? Maybe also because we're, like we were talking about, Age of Aquarius, it's an evolution. So if there's still, there's, I don't have any doubt we're going to still be grappling at that point with, I guess I want to say, a misrepresentation of what it means to be. I mean, Pisces can have to do with spirituality, so misrepresentation of what it means to be Christian. And maybe that's going to be in our faces. What is it? What is it? What is it not? Any number of things.
I gotta go, Peggy.
Okay.
Thank you
Yeah, it's
so much for doing
5:30.
this.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Cheryl.
you, Cheryl.
I really appreciated you
Bye-bye.
giving us that beautiful transition. Thanks. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, thank you. Thank you for meditating on it. It's
Yeah.
like just have this sense of, we want a little sense that what comes after this
Right.
period,
What are we working toward?
Right.
Right.
so many of my peers are like, well, maybe it's the end.
Mm.
and very apocalyptic, a sense of dread. But um, astrology is really good at saying,
Oh, you accidentally muted yourself.
sorry, there I was getting a phone call and my computer was making a fuss about it.
Oh.
Yeah, just astrology is so good at reminding us that what can seem like a cataclysm in the moment is ultimately just a historical cycle, and
Right.
humans have survived much, much worse and much more severe. Um, and so it's like, all right, well, I would hope that the stars would give us maybe a little bit of a reprieve after this cycle.
I know, right? When can we? I mean, I think that's a lot of the reasons people look to astrological forecasts is like, when is this going to end? You know, when will it be easier? And I don't know. I mean, it's all this Aries can bring some, there's no way 2026 is not going to be difficult and probably full of conflict,
Mm.
violence, I mean, you don't need astrology to know that that stuff is probably in our near future. But yeah, but I mean, it helps me to feel like there's purpose in it, even if it's really, really hard and sad and makes me cry regularly that we're in this place. That and also helps me to think, which I think I do believe, when we're in this between lives place in our soul energy, that we choose the next life. So if I chose to be here, I chose to help. I had faith that I have the strength to, be here, be present with it, and maybe make a teeny tiny little difference in my own way. So we can only just try, right? We can just try.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Peggy.
Anybody else before we depart?
I'll head out now, see what that phone call was.
Okay.
But thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thanks, Bella.
Thank you.
Have a
So
good night.
thank you, everybody. I will send you the
Thank
recording.
you.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Melissa.
Great.
Really appreciate that you're here. And thank you, Jeff. And we'll do this again sometime when I
Love.
feel like I can't not talk about it.
Well,
Okay.
thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Peggy.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace and kindness.